Hello and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach. Week 4 of the UFL season is in the books. So now here to give my predictions for Week 5. So for Week 4, I went 2-2 in my predictions, bringing my overall record on the season to 11-5. Let's get into some of these game previews and predictions for Week 5. So Week 5 kicks off Saturday, April 27th, with a Fox doubleheader again. I'm not too keen on this. I'm not a big fan of the UFL kind of limiting its audience to its content. They did it this past weekend, but there was a rain delay, so a lot of people got to see most of both games. We'll see what happens this week. But to kick it off, you have the AntonioBrahmas, who are 3-1, taking on the Arlington Renegades, who are 0-4. The Brahmas beat the Michigan Panthers in Week 4. San Antonio continues to have a very good defense. They're currently number 2 in points allowed, number 2 in sacks, and number 2 in defensive takeaways. So, very close to being, the best defense in the UFL. One of the key components of their defense is their safety, Jordan Mosley, who leads the USFL in tackles. So, very good leader of that defense. On offense, unfortunately, their starting quarterback, Chase Garbers, got injured in Week 3, or after Week 3. And their backup, Quentin Dormandy, who does have a little bit of starting experience. He played some in the XFL last season. He had a very good game against the Michigan Panthers this week. He had 269 yards passing, looked very good in his first start. Fortunately for them, the rush offense kind of needs some help, needs something to give them a spark. They have the 6th rush offense in the league right now. That is 6th out of 8 teams, so not very good. They're below average kind in that department. So they've got a pretty one-dimensional offense right now. Moving on to the Arlington Renegades. They lost to the Houston Roughnecks in Week 4, giving the Roughnecks their first victory and leaving the Renegades as the last team in the UFL without a victory. Their offense is, of course, led by quarterback Louis Battlehawks, who actually leads the UFL in passing yards. Unfortunately, the rush offense is slightly better than San Antonio's. They've got the number 5 rushing offense in the league, so average run game. They are currently 6th in points per game. Average run game. Yes, 6 points per game. Defense, they're offense, they're also 3rd in yards, most of which is passing yards due to Louis Perez. Defense, fortunately, they're 7th in points allowed and 6th in yards allowed. So defense is very subpar, very close to the bottom in a lot of categories. They don't force a lot of turnovers. They haven't really given up a whole lot of points. Actually, 7th in points allowed, so that's a lie. They've kind of been struggling on defense and trying to count on their offense to pick them up, which fortunately did not happen against Houston, and they have been a team that even when they get a lead, haven't been able to keep it and been given up due to the fact that they have a very average run game. Now, going for my pick for this week is the San AntonioBrahmas, and the big component for that pick is their defense. I think their defense is going to play very well, continue to play very well, and I think that their offense is going to do well enough against this Arlington defense to get them the victory. Moving on to the second game of that Saturday night slate, you have the Birmingham Stallions, who are 4-0, going against the Houston Roughnecks, who are 1-3. Birmingham in Week 4 beat the DC Defenders. It was actually the closest they've come to losing. They had to have a little fourth quarter comeback and kick a game-winning field goal. So, they looked the most vulnerable they have looked all season. That being said, their offense looks very good no matter who they decide to put in at quarterback. In week 3, they started Adrian Martinez, who played very well. This week, they went back to Matt Corral, who was their starter for the first 2 games of the season. They have the number 1 passing offense in the UFL. A big part of that is their wide receiver, Deon Kane, who is actually 3rd in receiving yards. They also have the number 1 rushing offense with 2 of the top 3 rushers, one of which being their quarterback, Adrian Martinez, and the other one being running back, CJ Maribel. Very good rushing attack, very balanced offense. They have really, best passing and rushing games in the league. There's a reason that they are, undefeated and look to be the best team currently in the UFL. On top of that, they have the best defense in the UFL. Number 1 in points allowed, and they have the most sacks. And one of the big parts of that is defensive end Carlos Davis, who actually leads the UFL in sacks with 6. Moving on to the Houston Roughnecks, said they did get their first victory of the season against the Arlington Renegades this past week. Big part of that was their quarterback Reed Sinnott, who has looked very good in the 3 games he's had to play. When their starting quarterback Jarrett Garantino got injured, he's looked very good in those 3 games that he's started. But unfortunately, their rush offense is just non-existent. They have the worst rushing offense in the UFL. One thing that should hopefully help with that, they did get running back Mark Thompson back. He got his first action against the Renegades, but it was a little limited. He only touched the ball about 9 times. Mark Thomas was the 2023 USFL Player of the Year. So hopefully, as he'll get some more touches and we'll start to work back in this offense and get that run game going and really help them. Their defense has actually been pretty good. They're 4th in takeaways and 4th in points allowed. However, their defense hasn't really been able to make up for their lack of offense, with the exception being the Arlington game. Their offense is tied for last in points per game, and they have a negative turnover differential. So their offense has turned the ball over more times than their defense has been able to take it away. So not a very good recipe for winning football games. So that being said, my pick for this game is going to be the Birmingham Stallions. I've said this last week, and I'm probably going to keep saying it. Until somebody can beat the Birmingham Stallions, I'm going to keep picking them because they look like they're the best team currently in the UFL. And I will continue to say this until somebody shows that they're not. Moving on to the Sunday games of April 28th. First off, you've got the St. Louis Battlehawks versus the DC Defenders. Both of these teams for former XFL teams had 2 very good games against each other last XFL season, so hopefully that continues into this game. This past week, the St. Louis beat Memphis. St. Louis has a very high-powered offense led by A.J. McCarron. They've also got 3 very good wide receivers. The main one at this point being Marcel Aitman, who's been just a very good red zone threat, very good receiver. And their running back actually leads the league currently in rushing yards, Jacob Sailors. So the run game is starting to come along, the pass game is high-powered, and their wide receiver Darius Shepard leads the UFL in all-purpose yardage. So they have a variety of ways to gain yards, whether that's passing, rushing, return game with Darius Shepard. They can gain yards and put up points in a variety of ways. Their defense is currently 5th in points allowed, 4th in sacks, and their team is 4th in turnover differential. So they're very, kind of middle of the road, average defense, but good enough to keep them in games and help that high-powered offense. So they're not giving up too many points to keep a strain on that offense. Moving on, DC. This past week, lost to the Birmingham Stallions. It was, the closest the Stallions had come to losing this game this season. Of course, DC is led by their quarterback Jordan Teamu, who is currently third in passing yards. One big component of that is their wide receiver Calvin Harmon, who is fourth in receiving yards. So it looks like, as the season goes on, Jordan Teamu has found a receiver that he's very comfortable with. Because DC kind of had to overhaul their entire receiving core from last season. They lost their leading receivers to the NFL. Guys went on and made NFL rosters. So Jordan Teamu has kind of tried to make it work with a whole host of new receivers, and it looks like he's found one that he can trust in Calvin Harmon. They're also fourth in rushing yards per game, so their running game has improved as the season starts to go on, which was something that I didn't know how their running game would do, because they did lose the XFL's leading rusher from last season, who's on their team, Abram Smith, to a knee injury. So they've kind of found a host of running backs to kind of fill that role, along with Jordan Teamu using his athleticism to run around. Their defense is currently fifth in points allowed, but they are last in yards allowed. So they're kind of try to be a bend but don't break defense. They also don't get a lot of turnovers or sacks. So, that's not a way for a defense to stay on the field for way too long. It's actually surprising that they don't give up more points. But, their defense has done a pretty decent job of being bend but don't break. Moving on, my pick for this game is going to be the Battlehawks. I think that their offense is going to put up points. Their offense put up points against the AntonioBrahmas defense, who is, in my opinion, and statistically better than the DC Defender defense. And I think that their defense for St. Louis is going to be just good enough to hold the defenders to, not a whole lot of points and not let that offense get rolling. Moving on to the final game of the week, you have the Michigan Panthers, who are 2-2, taking on the Memphis Showboats, who are 1-3. This past week, Michigan lost to San Antonio. Their Michigan starting quarterback E.J. Perry left the game with an injury, so if he can't go this week, it looks like Danny Etling will most likely get the start. Good thing for Michigan is that Danny Etling is a very similar style quarterback to E.J. Perry, being that they're both very athletic and can, still very good at throwing, and teams can kind of forget how athletic they are, and all of a sudden they can either break big runs or something that Danny Etling showed when he had to play after A.J. Perry's injury. If he started to take off and run, the defender started to commit to him, thinking he was just going to scramble, and he then threw a very nice completion, which I believe went for a touchdown. So even if Perry can't go, Danny Etling is still a very good option at quarterback, especially for his athleticism. And he's going to has a very good receiving target in Marcus Smith, who leads the UFL in receiving yards and touchdowns. Right now they have the number 3 rush offense, behind 2 very good running backs in Wes Hills and Matt Colburn, along with E.J. Perry, who's been putting up good yardage and rushing touchdowns, and then possibly Danny Etling, who I think can also put up some good numbers with his legs. On defense, they're actually number 3 in points allowed, so they don't give up a whole lot of points. Their offense needs to work on scoring more points. That's been their issue, is that they've got down in scoring positions, or had good drives that have ended with field goals. Also on defense, they have the UFL interception leader in Kai Nakua. But even with having the interception leader, they are actually last in turnover differential. So their offense turns the ball over significantly more than their defense can take it away, which is a big problem if you want to win games. Finally, the Memphis Showboats. So they lost to the St. Louis Battlehawks in Week 4. Currently, their quarterback, Case Cookis, is 6th in passing yards. However, I'm pretty sure he did leave the game against St. Louis with some sort of injury. I know the week before he also was still suffered some sort of injury. So hopefully he can come in and play. Because right now he's kind of been their offense. Their rushing offense is currently 7th in yards per game, and they are tied for last in points per game. But their defense also unfortunately last in points allowed. However, the defense is 3rd in sacks and number 1 in takeaways. So their defense is very good at taking the ball away. They have a very good kicking game. Their offense needs to try and find a way to either get Case Cookis or run it quarterbacks, spread the ball around. They have a very good receiver in Vinny Papali, who caught a big touchdown against St. Louis. So I don't know if maybe they need to work him into their game plan more, or just try to get players more out in space. Just try to get the ball out quick. Just try to do something to just gain yards and try to get in the end zone. Moving on to my pick for this game, I am going to go with the Memphis Showboats. That may be a surprising pick, but I think with both these teams struggle offensively. And I think with Memphis's ability to take the ball away, they will be able to kind of force some key turnovers and find ways to score points off of turnovers, and they will wind up walking away with the victory in this football game. You guys let me know who you think's gonna win this week in the comments. Let me know if there's any maybe some more players you'd like to know about, maybe some more statistical stuff you want to know. I'm trying something different with this analysis that I have the past few videos. So let me know who you guys think is going to win this week. Players that have stuck out to you throughout the season. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, see ya.